Hi, this is Christina Presnell, and we are beginning step 2 of our Knit With Me project, the Basic Rib Socks for Men. This video is going to take us through the cast on and up through the foot of the toe up version. If you're doing the top down version, you'll want the top down version step 2 video, and both of these videos will be found on the Knitting Lodge Resource Center blog and kept there so that you can work through them at your own pace. And of course, we welcome your comments and feedback and are happy to answer any questions as you go through them. So go ahead and shoot those our way. All right, so it's time for us to get started with our toe up version on step 2. In step 1, we took a 100-gram skein of yarn and divided that, weighed it out, and divided it equally into 2 balls. And since these are toe up socks, we know exactly how much we'll need for our project. I'm going to work off this one. And we can just stop when we're done. Even though the leg length on this sock, the goal of that is 8 to 10 inches, of course you can adjust that to suit either the preference of the wearer, the knitter, or the amount of yarn that you have. Okay, so we've got our tail. We've got 2 double point needles in our right hand, both of them held together and pointing to the left, like so. This cast on is called Judy's Magic Cast On. It was first developed by Judy Becker. It's a very simple, easy cast on to learn, and it makes a beautiful seamless toe for your sock. I prefer this for toe up socks. You, of course, are welcome to use any cast on that you already know. This is what we'll be demonstrating today. So for Judy's Magic Cast On, we take our tail end and just simply loop it over these 2 double points. The tail will then pass through the center of the 2 and down behind the bottom needle. So over the top needle, behind the bottom needle with the tail to the front. Go ahead and pull a good length there. We're only casting on 12 stitches here, and we'll go and cross that to the back. Everybody's casting on 12 regardless of what size you'd like to make. If you'd like a wider toe, go ahead and cast on more. We're still going to work up to the same number and same length of foot. So to begin now, notice we did not make a slip knot there. Yay. We just crossed that yarn over to the back. And we're going to hold the yarn as if for a long tail cast on in the bottom 3 fingers, taking our forefinger and our thumb to separate these 2. And we're going to add stitches to the bottom needle from the top loop over our index finger and stitches to the bottom needle from the bottom loop over our thumb. And right now we've already got 1 stitch started on our top needle, so we'll need a bottom stitch. We'll do that by passing from front to back over the top loop and pulling that down. And then we have 2, 1 on each. And then to add to the top needle, we pass behind the bottom needle, through the center, over the top loop, and back down. For the bottom needle, we'll pass from front to back, through the center, and over the bottom needle and back down. Then we have 2 on each. We're going to work up to 6 on each. So I'll go ahead and walk you through that again. Work with me. So from front to back, or from back to front, through the center, over the top needle and back down. And then from front to back, through the center, over the bottom needle and down. Gives us 3 of each. And then from back to front, through the center, over the top needle, back down. And from front to back, through the center, over the bottom needle and back down. Gives us 4. From back to front, through the center, over the top, back down. From front to back, through the center, over the bottom and back down. We now have 5. See how easy this is? From back to front, the last one, through the center, over the top and back down. And on the bottom, from front to back, through the center and the top needle and back, or bottom needle and back down. You now have 6 stitches on each needle for a total of 12. And that's all you'll need to cast on. Wasn't that quick? But now we have to work up to our working circumference. So that's 72 for a US men's size, 7 to 9 per the pattern, and 80 if you're doing the larger size, 10 to 12. At this point, we want to pass the working yarn, or the tail end, back to the back so it's out of the way. Turn our needles so that they are now in our left hand pointing to the right. And you'll want your working yarn. If you're knitting continental, you would wrap it here. Otherwise, you'd have it in your right hand. But however you hold your tension is fine. There we go. And now you'll need a 3rd needle. And we're going to knit across these first 6 stitches on the top row. At this point, I like to hold the tail because it gets very pesky if you don't, and just knit it in at this point. It saves me the trouble of weaving it in later, and it adds a little bit of bulk to that toe, but if you don't like that, leave it out. You can weave it in up the side. If you don't mind that, I like the little bit of bulk there at that toe. So I'm going to knit it in. You can do it either way, and just knit across those first 6 stitches. It is cumbersome because you're knitting onto double points, so you'll want to keep that tight, giving it a little tug after each stitch all the way across. If that tail's getting in your way and you change your mind, it's fine. Go ahead and grab it and pick it up and start knitting it in. And again, that tug afterwards on each one. And now you have 6 tight stitches across that top. Very good. You're going to want to keep these stitches snug on this toe. And now you're going to want to turn your needles back to your left hand. Now your bottom row is on top. Your top one has been knitted and it is on the bottom. What was the bottom row will be knitted through the back loop across. This puts your stitches together so that you have the seamless toe. This is where the magic comes in. So now the cat's out of the bag. Go ahead and knit through the back loop across these 6 stitches here on the back row. I'm still holding the tail in there until it works its way out. You can do that any way you'd like. But you do want to keep, again, these stitches very tug. So after each one, you're going to want to tug them tight. There you go. 3. And we'll go ahead and work through this with me. 4. And there's our last one is 6. Whew. Okay, all 6 of those to the 9th. So you should have here 2 needles side by side and this tight little toe here in the center. Very smooth knitting, very seamless knitting. I've got a little piece of tail. We'll just make sure that stays on the inside of the sock there. And that tail's already anchored in and seamed in. I don't need to go back to it later. Okay, I'll work that through there. But either way you work that tail through, it's still going to be a little bit pesky, and so is the casting onto double points. And that's just practice getting used to it, and now it's over, so we can move on. We're going to increase up, like I said, to the number that you desire for your sock, the size that you're making, and we're going to knit through the front and back of each of the first and last stitch on this row on both sides. So first through the front, and there's no way to make this pretty working with these double points, so just work with me. There we go, through the front loop. These are tight together, so you just got to work your fingers through there. I'm going to do that one more time to make it a little bit cleaner. Through the front loop, around through the back loop. Oops. There, working it through the back loop. Perfect. Okay, so now we ended up, paid the price, but we ended up with 2 stitches on that needle instead of 1. Very good. Okay. I know that's a little tough to see there with this color. Okay, then knit across your row, so you've got 4 stitches in between there. And she'll just want to knit normal. Maybe. Stars align. Okay, there we go. 2. Now we're rocking. All right. And the problem is we've knit this so tightly between these 2 double points. We're struggling a little bit to get our needle through. The good news is you'll have a nice tight toe. The bad news is you've got 4 stitches here that will cause you a little bit of angst. Maybe it's just me. No? Okay. Yeah, people shaking their head at me. Nope, not just me. All right, there we go. All right, there's We're working across here. Very good. And we're going to increase this back row here for the last stitch. Again, knitting through the front. Now it's loosened up a bit for us. Knitting through the front and then knitting around again through the back. So let me show you that. I know I got away from the camera a little bit there. Okay, I'll let that stitch go again. And I'll show you this front to back increase one more time. It's very, very simple. You just simply go through the front of your stitch, knit that as normal, don't slide it off the needle, and go back around to the back of your stitch. There you go. Perfect. So now you should have ended up with 8 stitches on your needle. I've got one big thick one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's simply because I picked up the rest of that tail there, got that involved. And now I'll even out my needles again and go back and do the same thing to this bottom, what was your bottom row. If you want to mark your top needle with a marker, that might be helpful in determining what row you're on. And let's see, just go across here again. In the first stitch we go front and back. It's looser now because we've broken through those first 4 stitches, and that's where the challenge is. But once you go through that, it's smooth sailing. So there's the first 2, knit across. The next 4 stitches gives us 6 on this needle, and then in the last one again we knit front to back. So there's the front, back it around, and the back. Now these needles seem to be a little bit pesky getting in the way there, but we do want longer double point needles. So these are 7-inch needles. 6 or 7, even 8-inch needles are good for a men's sock because you've got so many stitches cast on. Now you see I've got 8 stitches on both of these needles. That was my increase round. The next round I'm simply going to knit across both needles. So starting here, with this thicker one I've got here, and just simply knit these stitches across. Three. So you should still end up with 8 on your needle because there's no increases on round 2 here. Very good. So we have 8, and then knit the bottom side across the 8. Remember to keep pulling the snug and making this toe as tight as you can, especially on these increases, the knitting front to back. You can reinforce them later if you find you are not comfortable with the spaces that are there. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that the end of that tail goes inside the sock and not outside. It'll get woven in later. Okay, so now we're back. We've got 8 and 8. They've both been knit across a second time, and we're going to go ahead and do another increase round. So we're just going to repeat these 2 rounds. I'll go through it with you a couple more times. So front to back on this first stitch. Knit front, knit back. Across the row, we're going to knit it. So you're starting to look like a little, almost looks like broomstick lace here. Your railroad tracks you've got going here with these 2 double points. But you're not going to be on them forever. So we did front to back on that first stitch, and we're going to end up on 10 on this one. If you find you miss one, you can go back and redo it. You can make it up at the end of your increasing, but don't try to skip rows and whatnot in the middle. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Everybody there? Okay, so that increase went well. Let's go ahead and do the bottom. We're starting to get a little more space in there so we can breathe a little easier. So increase front and back on the first stitch. Knit across. And if you're following out and don't know where the pattern is also linked right on the Knitting Lodge Resource Center blog along with this video. So you can print that out and follow the pattern instructions as we work through these, getting started here. And again, front to back in this last stitch. So now we're increased. There we go. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can go ahead and check your stitches there. So we're up to 10 on both. We're going to knit across this again. For round 2, and we're simply going to repeat round 1 and round 2 again until we get up to our preferred number of stitches, be it 72 or 80 for this pattern. And if you're using this video for a different pattern, calling for different socks, just work that up to the number that the pattern calls for. So we're simply knitting on this round. That was the top needle, and you're going to cross the bottom needle, moving those stitches down out of the way. Like so. Right across we go. I'll do this with you one more time, and then we can pause if you'd like to go ahead and work your cast on up on your own and catch up with us there. We're going to go ahead and continue there. Let's increase the front and back, the first one. Do this one more time with you. Front, don't pull it off, around to the back, loop it through. Very good. One. Sorry, I won't count out loud. I know you're knitting with me. We hang out via our Google Plus Knitting Lodge community page every Tuesday night. That's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and again on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time for our UK friends. And one of our hangout, informal rules is no counting out loud, so that we can all knit together. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Oops, I did not do that, did I? See, so if you miss an increase here, just as I just did, that's okay. Go back and catch it. So that was supposed to be increased front and back. Let me do that one more time. Got me thinking about hangouts. Those are fun. All right. So front and back, but distracting. So just like on a hangout, get distracted. All right, here we go. And then again on the bottom needle, front to back in that first stitch. Let me take that real slow for you. Through the front, loop it. Everybody catching on to this now. And then again through the back loop without pulling it off. Loop that, pull it through, and then across the left stitches. This should give us 12 on each of these needles when we're finished here with this increase. And it's going to take us some time to go ahead and get up to our number. Here, let me do this last one real quick. Oh, I did that kind of fast. Okay. Through the front, over, pull it through without pulling it off the needle, go back again through the back loop, knit that, and pull them both off together, which increases you there. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We're going to go ahead and knit around both of these for round 1. Still got that pesky end of the tail waving at me, wagging at me. So go ahead and knit those 12 stitches in on each side. And if you want to go ahead and pause your video and work your cast on stitches up to the number that you need for your sock that you're making, 72 for a small, 80 for a large, you can go ahead and do that now. And we'll pick back up when we're finished and we're at our number. So go ahead and finish your cast on now. Okay, I'm going to skip over to one I already have up there. So if you're rejoining now and you've finished your cast on, we'll look something like this. And I have put a pin on the top just to mark my top side to make it a little easier for me. Now you notice this toe tends to be a little bit pointy. That's why I said if you want to cast on more to make it wider so that it looks better at this stage, that's fine. you can do that, but this really does fit very well because you end up with a big toe in there that fills that space. So you've got your sides. See, I've got a hole or two there. If you find that in yours, we can go ahead and with our leftover yarn at the end, we can just reinforce that a little bit. And going up on this side. So how do you feel about that cast on? I'd love to hear your feedback on this. But here we are. I've got 80 stitches on the needle. And from this point, we are simply going to knit our foot. And the foot measurement for a men's sock from the tip of the toe is 8.5 inches for the smaller size, 9.5 inches for the larger size. So regardless of how many stitches you cast on, you're still going to work up to this number and then knit for the 8.5 to 9.5 inches from the toe. And I'm not going to do that with you here today, but go ahead and work on that over the next week or so. And we'll continue in the next video with our heel. And the heel we're going to do for the sock is the sweet tomato heel. So I'm looking forward to showing you that. So go ahead. Good luck with your feet this week, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.